All right, in this lecture, I'm going to show you data annotations in action. So I have created this project, which is based on our Pluto model that you have seen in the previous lectures. But this is a brand new project because I wanted to start from a clean state. And you can find this project in the supplementary materials of this lecture. So if you want to follow along with me, pause the video, download the project, open it up in Visual Studio, and let's get started. Okay, now the first thing I want you to look at in this project is that we don't have the migrations folder. All we have is a bunch of domain classes like author, course, Pluto context, and tag. So pretty simple. Now the first thing we want to do is to enable migrations. I'm going to clean up my workspace with Alt, W, and L. Now I open Package Manager console and type enable migrations. Okay, beautiful. We got the migrations folder, but we don't have any migrations yet. So we need to create a migration based on our current model. So we're going to call this initial model. Back to Package Manager console, add migration, initial model. All right, let's take a look at this migration. So this migration aims to create tables such as authors, courses, tags, and tag courses, which is the intermediary table between tags and courses. Now let's run this migration and then we'll look at the database. So back in Package Manager console, update database. Okay, let's go to SQL Server Management Studio. All right, so here we got a new database, Pluto underline data annotations. And here are our tables. Now let's take a look at the courses table. So as you see, by convention, ID is set as the primary key. It's an integer, and if you look here, it's an identity column. Look at the name. It's set to nvarchar of max, and it's nullable because the string type in C# is nullable. Same applies to description. So we want to apply some annotations and override these default conventions. Also take a look at author underline ID. Some developers don't like this underline in their column names. So we're going to apply some annotations and fix these issues. Also note that the author is nullable. It doesn't make sense to have a course without an author. So let's flip over to Visual Studio and apply a few annotations on the course class. So first I'm going to clean up my workspace as usual and open the course class. First, let's apply the annotations on the name property. So I'm going to make this required. Now, as I told you before, these annotations are defined in system.componentModel.dataAnnotations. So you need to add the namespace on top of your file. Let's go ahead. Now I want to change the length of the name property. So I want to limit it to 255 characters. Now we can apply these two attributes on the description property as well, but we can give let's say 2000 characters here. Now look at the author. So as I explained in the last lecture, if you want to get rid of that underline, there are two steps you need to follow. First, you need to add a property that represents your foreign key, and that property is going to have the desired name. So we're going to call it author ID. And then we need to link that property with this navigation property here. So author ID. And now we can apply the foreign key either on this property and link it to the other one or vice versa. There is no right or wrong, up to you. So I'm going to apply it here. And here we pass a string with the name of the navigation property. Now, one thing that I personally don't like about data annotations is this magic string here. The problem with this magic string is if tomorrow I decide to change the name of the author property, let's say if I change it to creator or owner, this annotation here is going to break because it's referencing a property that does not exist in your class. In the next lecture where we talk about Fluent API, you're going to see that in Fluent API, we use lambda expressions. So if you change the name of your properties, you're not going to face this issue. All right, now let's create a new migration. So back to Package Manager console, cleanup, add migration. I'm just going to give it an arbitrary name, like add annotations to course table. Cleanup, update database. All right, now let's go back to SQL Server. All right, let's open up the database, tables, make sure to refresh here, and open up the courses table. Look, so the name column is now nvarchar of 255, and it's not nullable. Same for description. It's nvarchar of 2000. And we no longer have that author underline ID column. It's called author ID, and note that it's not nullable. So this is how data annotations work. They're pretty easy to apply, but they have limitations. One limitation is with the magic strings in the foreign key attribute. So as I told you, if you rename your properties, that's going to break. Another limitation is, look at this tag courses here. This is an intermediary table in a many-to-many relationship between courses and tags. I personally don't like the name tag courses. I think it's more meaningful to call this course tags. But with data annotations, there is no way to override that. So my advice to you is, unless you're working on a very simple project, maybe as a proof of concept or something, prefer to use Fluent API. Yes, you will have to write a little bit more code, but you will have more control over your database schema. And remember, do not mix data annotations with Fluent API. Entity Framework has no problem with that, but it complicates maintenance of your application. Because every time you want to check some configuration, you have to look in two different places. In the next lecture, we'll take a look at Fluent API. I hope you enjoyed this lecture and thank you for watching.